Hello, viewers. So, today I'm going to give you a brief outline about the laws and the legal provisions that are available for the protection of women and children in our society. Before I begin, let me start by what Mahatma Gandhi once said. He said that India will be free when a woman feels safe to walk alone on the road at midnight. So, taking that as a standard, let me ask myself, have we really achieved that stage? And going by that standard, has India become free? The answer is a big no. Everyone knows that. We hear of so many disturbing instances day in and day out, and every time we ponder upon why such things happen, why such instances of violence happen, and it shocks the general conscience of the society as a whole. So, if you ponder on why exactly do such instances of violence on women as well as on children these days happen, the answer would finally be in the prejudices of the mind. The answer would finally be in what we as a society are treating our women as, what we as a society are teaching our children. So the answer lies in removing those old prejudices from our mind, the prejudices which are rooted in orthodoxy, in patriarchy, and we need to teach our children from the very beginning to respect women, to respect their mothers, to respect their sisters, to understand them as human beings. And then there would be a lot of change in society. So, unless there is a change in the attitude towards women, all the laws are not going to help us put together. However, until we reach that stage, because change in attitude is a very slow progress in every society, society changes with a lot of time, and therefore, until we change all the attitudes, let us understand what are the legal safeguards that are available to us today that will help us to protect ourselves, because the victim in today's society can be anybody. It could be you, it could be me, it could be somebody who is known to you, it could also be somebody who is not known to you but who is really in need of help. That could be a child, that could be a woman in distress, it could be anybody. You must have heard of the famous campaign by a very popular actor who said, Petraldan Pillaya. Therefore, everybody who is known to us and who is in need of help is entitled to that help, and it is our duty as citizens to do our bit, to do whatever we can in a given situation. In fact, under the Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act 2012, if a person who is completely unknown to the victim also has witnessed a scene of violence or of any act which qualifies as an offense under that particular act and has not reported that, then that itself becomes an offense. So that underlines the fact that each of us has been bestowed with a duty under the law to report every act of wrongdoing which would qualify as an offense. Any kind of a sexual offense, any kind of an offense in general against a child. So let me start with the laws which protect children. Even before the fetus progresses and develops into a baby, an infant, and a child, we have the Prenatal Diagnostic Techniques Act of 1994, which prohibits any kind of determination of the sex of the fetus, because as you all know, female infanticide was prevalent for a long time in the north, especially, and also in South India to a great extent. And in order to balance the sex ratio, this act was brought into place. Even today, this act has been implemented very, very successfully in most parts of India, and therefore this is the first step for protection of a fetus, especially a female fetus. Then you have the Prohibition of Child Marriage Act 2006, which prohibits the marriage of any child. That is, child has been defined as anybody who is below the age of 18 years. So this act prohibits the marriage of any child. That is, this act prohibits the marriage of any child, or that means any person below the age of 18 years and any such marriage would be an offense under this act, a punishable offense under this act. In fact, even in a recent judgment, the Supreme Court has said that any instances of a sexual relationship with a child, a bride child, would be an offense under this act. Then we come to the very important act against child abuse, which is the Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act 2012. Under this act, any child, that is, any person who is under the age of 18 years, has been afforded protection specifically against sexual abuse. Sexual abuse could be of various types, which all of you are aware of. It could be what is specifically defined as penetrative assault, that is, an actual act of rape on a child. It could be what is known as aggravated assault, that is, assault or abuse by a person in authority. It could be by a person who is a police officer, it could be by a person who is a doctor, it could be by a person who we generally believe to safely protect a child. So that is known as aggravated assault. So these are offenses which are specifically stated under that. So who can make a complaint under this act? Anybody can make a complaint. You could be a person who is related to the child. You could be a person who is just a bystander who has witnessed some kind of an incident against a child. You could be anybody. Or it could be the child himself or herself. For example, if it is a child of 16 years, she's grown up enough to understand that what has happened against her is wrong, which she has not consented to, and which has affected her, which has caused a lot of trauma to her. So it could be that kind of a person. So this, under this act, anybody can make a complaint. A lot of safeguards have been provided under this act. So even after you give a complaint, the interrogation will happen at the residence of the child in the presence of a member of the family with whom the child is comfortable. Therefore, therefore there is a lot of protection given to the child at every stage, even after the interrogation. When the matter goes to trial, even at the trial is conducted in camera. That means it is conducted in private, and no kind of questions which are aggressive in nature, which cause trauma to the child, no kind of repeated testifying or repeated questioning, or which cause any kind of character assassination, so to call it, or any kind of embarrassment to the child should be done. That has been specifically mentioned under this act, and there are special courts to deal with these kind of offenses, and there are police officers, women police officers, who have been designated to take care of these kind of interrogations. So a lot of safeguards have been placed in this act in order to safeguard children. What is important is that child abuse in the form of pornography of any kind has also been specifically included under this act. So even if you're aware of any instance of any kind which you think will affect the mental well-being of the child, which will affect the physical well-being of the child, or which causes any kind of abuse or trauma to the child, all that will qualify as abuse under this particular act. Therefore, a lot of definitions these days have been widened with different instances that we hear about, and a lot of safeguards have been provided. Let me now come to the rights of women, the safeguards given to women, the laws that protect women in general. So when you talk about a human being in general, we have three kind of rights. We have the rights relating to the person, that is the body, the rights relating to the mind, and we have the rights with respect to the external elements like property, which give us a lot of security in life, that is financial and economic security. So if you start with laws which protect the human body, especially with reference to women, we can say the first act that comes to mind would be the Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act 2005. So where does your first protection come from? It comes from home. You need to be treated with respect, with comfort, and with dignity at home, which means you need to have no violence in any kind of domestic relationship. Domestic relationship has again been defined under this act, and domestic relationship means your relationship with anybody, that is, any member of the family within the four corners of your home. It could be anybody. It is not necessarily between husband and wife. This is something which a lot of people are not aware of. It could be just anybody. It could be any two members of the family who are treating each other with some abuse. So, for example, you have what is categorized as physical abuse, you have emotional abuse, you have sexual abuse, you also have what is known as economic abuse. So, the concept of physical abuse is usually understood easily, but there are other concepts, finer concepts like emotional abuse, which has not really been understood so much, and people don't know even today that such instances of emotional abuse can also be complained against. And therefore, if you see, for example, if a woman comes into a family and if she does not have a child for several years after marriage, and if someone in the family, it could be anybody who is a female member or male member of the family, an elder person or young man, if it is whomsoever, and if the person says that this lady is useless, she could not bear a child, or that if she is not able to bear a male child, this is an instance of emotional abuse which has been specifically mentioned in the act, against which you can definitely file a complaint with the local police under this act. And you then have the sexual abuse. So sexual abuse is once again understood abuse of a sexual nature, and abuse of a sexual nature has again been treated very broadly. So anything and everything that makes a person uncomfortable, embarrassed, or with any kind of remarks, that could be a verbal abuse, it could be uh, any kind of vituperative words, or it could be any kind of sexually colored remarks, all that would fall under sexual abuse. You also have the economic abuse. The economic abuse I will be coming to later when I talk about rights relating to property. So, when you're talking about the body, these are the kind of safeguards which have been given to a person at the stage of domestic relationships, that means at home. Then we come to when you travel outside. When you travel outside, see, women come across a lot of strange problems. Like one fine day, you may find that somebody is stalking you. You don't know why that person is stalking you. Initially, it is a little bit of a discomfort, and thereafter, it is a lot of discomfort. You feel endangered, you feel scared, especially if it is during the late hours in the evening. You don't know what to do, you don't know whom to go and tell. So this is a kind of these kind of instances were not earlier covered under any laws, but today, if you see, after the Nirbhaya incident in 2012, in 2013 we had the criminal laws amendment in 2013, which specifically included the offense of stalking. Stalking is any person following the other without their consent in a way so as to cause them to be scared. And then you have voyeurism, that is watching anybody, especially a female, in any of her private acts, like bathing or like any other private acts. And then you have the acid attacks. See, these are all instances that we have heard of. The you even have movies made on such instances, but these were not included specifically as offenses earlier. But now, from the year 2013, all these are specific offenses against which complaints can be made with the local police, and they have to necessarily register your complaint and they will have to take action. Please be rest assured that in all these kind of complaints, your identity will be kept discreet. Your name will not come out in any of the newspapers or in media or anywhere for that matter. Your identity, your name will be kept secret and discreet, so you do not have to worry about who is going to say what about you. So you will have to stand up for your own rights, You cannot always wait for somebody else to come and help you out in every situation. That is one thing. And then you also have, so I've covered what is at home, and then what is outside, and now we go to the workplace. So all of you are generally aware of the Vishaka case, after 16 years of which the legislature finally passed the Sexual Harassment at Workplace, the Prevention, Prohibition and Redressal Act of 2013, which says that every workplace should have a mechanism in place where any complaints of sexual harassment by the female employees are entertained. There is a specific inquiry made, and they are made comfortable in every way, and once again their identity is not disclosed, and they get some kind of a remedy immediately, and they are not threatened, and they don't have to be scared about anything at workplace. They can work with dignity. So that is the other act. Now coming to the aspect of security, that is your property. You have the Hindu Succession Act of 2005, which has given equal rights to women in property. So property is one aspect. Some people have asked me questions like, assuming I am a working member, I am earning, but my husband and my in-laws want every penny of my salary. Do I have a remedy? You have a remedy. You have a remedy because that is an instance of economic abuse. Therefore, you can go to the local police and you can make a complaint against them or against anybody who does this to you under the Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act. This is an instance of economic violence, of economic abuse, which will fall under the Domestic Violence Act. See, any kind of resources which you are entitled to have access to, which are taken away from you, a house in which you're entitled to live, or any economic resources which you are entitled to and which are forcibly taken away from you without your consent, in all those cases, definitely it amounts to an abuse, because it affects your person, it affects your mental well-being, it affects your confidence in life, it causes trauma to you. So taking into consideration all these, see, these are not things that have just been included in a law. These are things that have been researched upon. The pattern of behavior of people in society has been researched upon, has been studied, and thereafter these laws have come into being. And implementation is not always the reserve of the authorities, but in order to kickstart the implementation, we need to be aware of these provisions, and we also need to make complaints where the need arises. Therefore, these are cases which are covered under these acts. So these are the aspects. In fact, under the Domestic Violence Act, you also have monetary reliefs which the court gives you. The court gives you monetary reliefs for the amount you spent in court, for whatever you have lost during the time of trial, for if you have lost an employment during this. Because even today, if you go to court, if you go to the police, you are being treated with a little bit of stigma. See, this kind of stigma is something which will initially feel a little heavy on you, but thereafter it will wear out. So you'll have to be brave and bold enough to come out of it. So these are the laws with respect to your body, with respect to your mental well-being, your emotional well-being, and then with respect to your economic and financial security and stability. So these are the broad framework, I can say, the broad framework of laws that are available to us for our protection, and each of us has a duty cast on us by law to safeguard not only ourselves but also those who are around us, because it is not as if, because the victim could be anybody, as I said earlier. So we all have to unite in this struggle for the empowerment of women. That is all. Thank you.